Chat, what's a Wendy goon?
Hey everybody, so I was doing research for the iceberg and kept coming across like weird shady government stuff, and a lot of it made me think about JFK, and then I was like, I haven't given my crazy conspiracy rant on him yet, so this is that. I say that mostly as a joke. To me, JFK is one of the most obvious cover-ups that have ever happened in history ever, to the point that there is government records and committees made who say, without a shadow of a doubt, that it was a conspiracy. So I thought, what better way to illustrate that than with a whiteboard? So bear with me, and I am going to show you exactly how JFK was killed and who killed him. What I'm going to do is start with the official telling of events so we can establish how the official report of everything that happened went, and then from there I can pick it apart and we can see what more than likely happened, or at least what probably happened that certain government groups don't want us to know about. I'm trying to get past the minute monetization time before I say the specific word, but yeah, we'll get there. I hope that you all can appreciate real art when you see it. I'll give the official retelling of events. On November 22nd, 1963,
Wait, guys, I'm interested now. I'm interested. Give it a minute, chat. Hey, chill out. Hey, chill out. I'm interested.
F. Kennedy. Has it been past a minute? It's probably been past a minute. The CIA killed John F. Kennedy. Like, hilariously so, but we'll get to that. 1963, November 22nd, John F. Kennedy and his wife Jackie are going through Dallas on a motorcade in the middle of a big Dallas parade. It was part of his whole re-election campaign. Right in front of them was the governor of Texas and his wife, basically Mr. and Mrs. Connolly. In the front row was CIA agents O'Connolly and Greer. Greer was driving. The official telling of events goes something like this. Lee Harvey Oswald fired 3 shots. The first one was use the Patreon money to get better markers. The first shot was a miss, supposedly bouncing off the pavement and hitting a bystander who we'll talk about in a minute. The second shot supposedly hit John F. Kennedy in the back of the neck. The bullet then went through his neck, hit John Connolly, the governor, who was sitting in front of him, in the back, right below the scapula. It then shot through, so let me draw this out, bounced through him into his chest, shot out the front of his chest, hit his arm, and then shot down into his knee and came out as a perfectly intact bullet. This is so absurd that the official name given to it during the court trials that follow is the magic bullet theory. This is why in the famous Zapruder film, in which you can see
triple collateral IRL from high ground, man, bro, this makes COD look like a fucking minigame, dude.
The assassination of John F. Kennedy. He's leaned over like this, holding his neck because he had just been shot in the neck. Finally, the third shot came, hitting JFK in the back of the head and killing him. While making his escape out of the bookstore, John F. Kennedy ran into a police officer. He then pulled a revolver and shot the police officer twice, killing him. Which, I mean, after you shot the president, you might as well add the cherry to it, I guess. It was later found out that Lee Harvey Oswald had communist sympathy ties. As a matter of fact, he tried to renounce his U.S. citizenship some years back, and everyone was happy initially, like, yep, that's the guy that did it. Don't have to worry about anything else. The Warren Commission, which was the board that was put together to make sure everything that I just described actually happened, came back after short deliberation and said, yep, Lee Harvey Oswald was the only shooter, and it was not some grander conspiracy, and we can all close.
Okay, Jack, I have a question, Jack. Guys, why didn't they speed up after the first bullet hit something and they heard a shot? Why didn't? There's a bunch of questions I have here.
There's books on this one. So let me tell you why that's wrong. I'll go ahead and say this to be generous. I do believe Lee Harvey Oswald was one of the shooters. However, there is not a doubt in my mind that he was not the only shooter. So let me explain. Remember that first shot that I mentioned that was supposedly a miss? Yeah. Well, what happened is that bullet skipped off the ground, shot to the other side of the street, and hit a man who was standing about 100 yards out, whose name was James T.
Oh, hell no!
People so we can keep track. It's our man JT. James T stopped, was watching the motorcade go by, which then a bullet skipped off the concrete and hit him in the cheek. You can even see pictures of that skid mark on the ground from the bullet that came up and hit him, the supposed first shot. However, the big problem to this is Jane Teague's personal testimony. See, he was walking by the street as the parade was going by and he didn't take much care for it. The reason he stopped and turned to face the motorcade was because he heard a gunshot.
Oh.
Now, if he heard a gunshot, took time to stop and turn,
how did it hit him?
There is no way the first shot was the same one that hit him. But it would make sense if it was the second or the third or more after that. The reason everyone and the official report sticks with 3 shots is because there were 3 shell casings from Lee Harvey Oswald's window, as well as 3 at least confirmed bullets on the ground. However, JT's testimony here messes all that up, and his isn't the only one. The governor who got shot along with Kennedy, John Connolly, says the exact same thing. He says that there is not a doubt in his mind, nor his wife's, that the bullet that hit Kennedy and him was 2 separate shots. Keep in mind, it's called the magic bullet theory for a reason. There's no way the bullet followed that whole trajectory and just stayed together perfectly fine. What makes more sense is that it was 2 separate shots. However, Lee Harvey Oswald was using a 6.5mm bolt-action Carcano rifle. Not to get into all the details of it, but it is literally impossible to fire a bolt-action rifle in the amount of time between what would be Kennedy getting hit and the governor getting hit. The space between the 2 shots was long enough that they could tell a difference in when each of them was hit, but not fast enough for someone to rechamber around and get a second shot off.
That would make sense.
Unless there was a second shooter somewhere off to the other side.
Chat, as this video, chat, but this needs a bit of visuals. I wish it was like a transparent thing over here that showed what a bolt action is, what it does, right? And the amount of time it takes for the 2 shots and chambering it. And shoot again. I wish you showed all that.
And stick with me here for a second. I was trying to draw him on a hill, but it looks like he's got really big legs. We're gonna keep it. Anyway, if Texas Red here was off on the other side of the road firing shots toward the motorcade too, then one of his shots could have crossed through, striking the president in the neck and continuing, which would make more sense why Kennedy was hit in the neck, bent forward, and then one of Lee Harvey Oswald's shots hit the governor in the back. This is a direct quote from former Governor John Connolly. There is my absolute knowledge, and Nellie's too, that one bullet caused the president's first wound and that an entirely separate shot struck me. So where would our man Texas Red be standing? Most of you are probably familiar with the famous Zapruder film, which is the film that is famous for being the one in which JFK gets killed. However, there was another view. There was another camera on the other side of the street that was recording that day that was filming the motorcade from the other direction. In it, everyone who has watched that film has said they can see with absolute certainty puff of gun smokes appearing from the opposite side of the street on what appears to be a grassy knoll. Not only that, but these puffs of smoke are in time with the times that bullets struck the motorcade. So now you may be asking yourself, what do you mean people who have seen this other film? And that's the fun part. In 1976, a group was formed called the House Select Committee on Assassinations. Now you may be asking, why in 1976, 13 years after the president's death, did they form a committee just to talk about this event? And it's because it came out that the CIA was purposefully hiding information regarding the assassination. Not only that, but they planned after this trial was over to have a trial for the CIA directors that allowed the information to go missing. The original reason that this House Select Committee came together is because new technology was found in '76 that analyzed this data more closely. Using audiograph equipment, and this is my interpretation of that, they managed to pull the audio from the original Zapruder film and picked out that there were 6 shots fired in this amount of time of the film, not the original thought out 3. They were so reliant on this that, as I mentioned before, they made a whole committee just to relook at all this information. You may be asking yourself, well, what happened to the other film and all the information? And that's the best part. The day after they used that other film footage to determine that there was a second shooter, it all disappeared overnight from a CIA lockup, to which they said that someone probably stole it, along with all the other evidence that proved that something was wrong with this picture.
Wait, really?
Despite that, once the committee had finished their whole proceedings, this is the official statement they gave in the end. The committee believes, on the basis of the evidence available to it, that President John F. Kennedy was probably assassinated as the result of a conspiracy The committee is unable to identify the other gunmen or the extent of the conspiracy. That is a government organization coming together and saying, yeah,
spooky stuff.
something definitely weird happened. So we know that something was up. But what makes me think it's a CIA?
Wait a minute. So you tell me that, okay, so they did like, we investigated ourselves and actually we're not innocent, something happened, lol W, we just don't know what it is, haha, moving on. So what happened?
Well, this is a whole other rabbit hole to go down, but John F. Kennedy was in big support of the CIA until a little thing called the Bay of Pigs happened. He was very upset with them after the fact and supposedly said to the White House Staff Committee, if it was up to me, I would take the CIA, break them into 1,000 pieces, and throw them into the wind. The CIA obviously didn't like that, and for those who know anything about them, they have a tendency to start to follow their own directive when president or states heads don't agree with it. I mean, for evidence, just look at like the 60s drug crisis or sending guns to South America, but we won't talk about that. Anyway, so going with this idea that John F. Kennedy was going to do something about the CIA, if not expose them for what they have already done, it stands to reason they want to do something about it. Also, keep in mind an interview that JFK did a couple months before the shooting. He said that there were scary things happening in US politics and that there were secret societies planning to take over democracy and government systems, and yeah. So we have the motive, but what about the evidence? As I've already mentioned, the CIA lost all the data the day after it was used in court to prove that this guy was actually there. Aside from that, at the least, their handling of John F. Kennedy's motorcade was hilariously bad. For example, they plotted out the map that John F. Kennedy would follow, and they determined that there were 20,000 open windows that the car drove by, and that there were so many windows that they just shouldn't cover any of them. Which has got to be the worst compromise I've ever heard.
Wait,
man,
what?
There's a lot of windows. We're going to have to do a lot of work. Or we could not. Also, keep in mind what I mentioned earlier. Greer and O'Connery, the two CIA agents who were in the front of the car. As soon as the first shot rang out, Greer did not try to run away or drive away or anything else that's standard of CIA training.
That's what I said.
He brought the car down to a 7-mile-an-hour speed, and him and O'Connery hunched forward and put their shoulders up.
What?
It's so weird that Jackie Kennedy even came out afterwards and said he was behaving extremely oddly during the whole thing. To adequately explain the rest of this, I need to bring in another character. The Umbrella Man. The Umbrella Man has become a famous figure in all the theories surrounding JFK, and there's good reason for it. In the middle of a sunny day in Dallas, right as the president's murdered, you can see a man in the Zapruder film who is holding up an umbrella in front of the motorcade. Not only that, but he is standing directly in front of the position Lee Harvey Oswald was in front of, and as he's standing there, JFK passes by, to which he lifts his umbrella, and immediately the first shots ring out. If that is not a man on the ground,
I'll give it a signal.
Signaling that it's the motorcade or giving the all clear to fire, I don't know what is. To top it off, immediately after JFK died, there are pictures of this guy simply shutting his umbrella and setting down at the curb. Keep in mind, everyone else is freaking out, running around, screaming, and this guy just was like, well, yep. During the House Select Committee on Assassinations, they were trying to figure out about this guy because obviously that's very weird and someone should probably figure out what happened here. To which the CIA brought in a man wearing a suit, holding an umbrella. The man walks into the court and goes, I am the Umbrella Man, and this is that umbrella.
What's up?
And the judge went, seems all right to me. There was no double check. There was no follow up. They're like, that man has an umbrella.
Wait, really? Chat, is this all accurate? Chat, according to like data and fucking reports and all that?
He's got my vote. There's also rumors and speculation that that man was a former CIA agent. However, I couldn't find anything concrete on that, so I'm going to let that part slide, but it's weird either way. Also, in 1966, they tried to reevaluate JFK's autopsy, and his brain was missing. Like, after the initial autopsy, they took the brain out and preserved it, and no one's been able to find it since.
Wait, why?
I make it that what you will. I have no idea why they would do that. Also, the initial Warren Commission, which was the first one that happened immediately after this, that determined that Lee Harvey Oswald was the only shooter and he acted alone, was made almost entirely up of CIA members who as it was proved later, suppressed information. There's a few things I want to disprove really quick to kind of emphasize this point. For one of the main theories that is prevailing to all this is that the mob did it, and while I'm sure the mob hated JFK, I don't see why a mob murder would be covered up to the degree that this was obviously and proven to be covered up by the CIA. Like, if the mob killed JFK, and assuming the CIA wants him dead, that's the perfect write-off. They could just say, yep, mob did it. That's cool, rather than having to do all this shady tactics around it. A lot of people also point to Jack Ruby, the man who ran up and shot Lee Harvey Oswald, as being for the mob because his family debts were paid off. But you know who else would probably pay off family debts? I'll give you a hint, it starts with CIA. The other popular idea is that the KGB did it. Obviously, that is the initial idea.
Oh, interesting. I get it now. I get it. Oh, what is that? The New York Times, the Umbrella Man. Is this the guy? Guys, I get it. I get the video. Like, I got the gist of it.
In December 1967, John Updike was writing Talk of the Town for the New Yorker.
Chat, you know how I feel right now, chat? Is I feel I'm the substitute teacher, dude, and we're at a fucking con, dude, and I'm rolling this documentary that we will never go forever again, that is not on the test, and it's just some fucking staller shit. But you're still excited to watch because you don't have to do any schoolwork, dude.
And he spent most of that Talk of the Town column talking about the Umbrella Man. He said that his learning of the existence of the Umbrella Man made him speculate that in historical research, there may be a dimension similar to the quantum dimension in physical reality.
Huh? Bro,
if you put any event under a microscope, you will find a whole dimension of completely weird, incredible things going on.
Okay.
It's as if there's the macro level of historical research where things sort of obey natural laws and usual things happen and unusual things don't happen. And then there's this other level where everything is really weird.
Chat, what is that, chat? Yeah, it does make sense, chat. Because a bunch of like mathematical things don't apply in the quantum realm, and things have their own like things are different. That's what it means. Is that simultaneously it's the same
thing.
On
November 22nd,
further down it's not.
It rained the night before, but everything cleared by about 9 or 9:30 in the morning. So if you were looking at various photographs of the motorcade route and the crowds gathered there, you will have noticed nobody's wearing a raincoat. Nobody has an open umbrella. Why? Because it's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. And then
Yo! Chat, is this Taz? I mean, it has 10 million views on YouTube, and it's been backed by some fucking context bullshit.
I noticed in all of Dallas, there appears to be exactly one person standing under an open black umbrella.
Is allergic to the sun.
And that person is standing where the shots begin to rain into
Yo, bruh.
the limousine. Let us call him the Umbrella Man.
Did you name the Umbrella Man?
Yes. You can see him in the certain frames from the Zapruder film standing right there by the Stemmons Freeway sign. There are other still photographs taken from other locations in Dealey Plaza which show the whole man standing under an open black umbrella. The only person under any umbrella in all of Dallas standing right at the location where all the shots come into the limousine. Can anyone come up with a non-sinister explanation for this? So I published
what is wrong with this guy?
this in 6 seconds, but didn't speculate about what it meant or got into any of the conspiracy theories, because everybody else got into the conspiracy theories. There was one wingnut who published a book with a diagram of the umbrella.
That's what I thought happened, chat. That's what I thought happened. When you guys, I thought this guy was a shooter, and he had a fucking gun inside of. That's what I thought.
The umbrella was rigged so that there was an aiming device and there was a rocket tube that you could fire a flechette directly into Kennedy's throat.
The Umbrella Man is the real assassin.
That was the idea. That was the source of the hole in the throat, folks, right? Well, I asked that the Umbrella Man come forward and explain this, right? So he did. He came forward and he went to Washington with his umbrella, and he testified in 1978 before the House Select Committee on Assassinations. He explained then why he had opened the umbrella and was standing there that day. The open umbrella was a kind of protest, a visual protest. It wasn't a protest of any of John Kennedy's policies as president. It was a protest at the appeasement policies of Joseph P. Kennedy, John Kennedy's father, when he was ambassador to the Court of St. James in 1938 and 39. It was a reference to Neville Chamberlain's umbrella.
What? Okay. Okay. I don't know what theories are real, okay? But, okay. I know which ones are real. This one is cap.
I read that and I thought, this is just wacky enough. It has to be true. And I take it to be true. What it means is that if you have any fact which you think is really sinister, right, is really obviously a fact which can only point to some sinister underpinnings, hey, forget it, man, because you can never on your own think up all the non-sinister, perfectly valid explanations for that fact. A cautionary tale.
This guy's bugging, deadass. Alright, well, I know this video proved what it said. I know which proves this guy's bugging, deadass. I'm just saying, dude, I watched the whole thing. I just think that he bugging. Yo, this is X on the beat, yo. Okay. My voice as well. Deadass. Anyone knows that boy? I don't know, he's just so soy. Anyone knows that boy? I don't know, he's just so soy.